someone else wants to watch the information about the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can record it. And then I would like to go over the presentation with you. There's one slide in particular, like the compensation slide. I kind of want to see like what's your thoughts. I think one line should probably be removed so it's clear. Like you just like, hey, base opportunity and then maximize opportunity. I don't think it really matters for us to show like what that value created is. I think it kind of blurs the line of like what someone potentially could get or not get.
You want to pull that up first?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if you went and watched the compensation discrepancy chat Tim and Justin had.
Yes, I did.
That
and
was interesting.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because we both knew that it was a problem, and we kind of brought it up multiple times. It just didn't sink in. So I'm still questioning like how I could have done better to kind of like prevent that. But
yeah.
So on this, the amenities, just so you're aware, like those are some of them that Samil said like you could do, but he's really like going to lean on the management team to kind of tell him like what you prefer to give the experience you're looking to give. So these are some examples. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily in both the parks unless you guys feel whoever the management team feels gives that input, I guess.
So my question is like, wouldn't this affect the numbers in terms of costs if you're going to build a pool or your recreational area? I mean,
so in the current cost is based on like a pavilion and like recreation, like kind of park area.
No pool.
The pool's not built in there, no. So that would impact the construction costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are all good. Sorry, slow me down if you think I'm. All right, so this is a slide kind of really wanted to discuss. So I don't think so. The base salary, this is like base performance, and then I put like the value created, which I think this line should be removed. And then the total maximized compensation would be like that difference in equity based on the value created plus the base performance.
Base performance, that's including both parks, correct?
Yeah, this is for both parks.
Right. And so Sunil told me that the one park, Koa, will probably be about 5 months after the Belton one.
Yep.
And so that might be a little bit more too granular, but I guess one of the things I'm trying to think about is like, we want to have good people doing this. And I think that when I talk to Sunil, he's like, this is quite a bit of work up front to maximize this thing and really get the operations going, because you're gonna have to be figuring out how to fill the thing. You're gonna have to be watching what happens on site, seeing how people come in and experience the park. And so like, let's say both of these are done at the beginning of like January 1st, 2022. Let's say if that's 150K for that year. That's split between the two people. Who knows how they're going to split that exactly based on their roles?
Yeah.
That's not that much for someone who's like what I would consider really badass or qualified that we'd want to do this if it's going to be more of a full-time job. And so I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is just because to think about how I'm going to frame it. Based on what they could make, if that makes sense.
No, and I think it's a valid question to ask. But with that, on that same note, my thought is you should maximize it quicker. Like we've kind of put out you maximize it in 2 years, but if the right team, I think you could do it in 6 months. Now, Sunil's right. You'll have to, test it and continue. It's probably going to be pretty intense, at least for a year. I mean, I don't think you can do it. Build the processes, all the procedure. I mean, I think that's probably will take a year, but I think maximization, though, I mean, just based purely on revenues, I think that could happen a lot quicker. So I think it's going to be probably closer to this maximized compensation, but it's probably like, if just to make it like an estimate, probably right between the middle. But you are right. It depends on when both of them come online. So I don't know how to communicate that. I guess we make that understanding, like, hey,
Yeah.
this is if they're both online at the same time, there might be a lag.
Yeah, and I guess I want to take the sales role, and like just completely transparent. Like I'm not gonna do that as my full time. That's the only thing I'm doing job.
Yeah.
And so like I think it just needs to be straightforward. If Sunil or you or Tim or someone's like, no, this needs to be like the 100% focus of this person, well then that may disqualify me and may disqualify other people like Linda, who is an acting grad who I thought would be really great at the operations. She runs a dental practice with her husband. She runs the operations of that practice. um, and she's up north and she's super apps focused, and so for me I was like maybe she'd do it full time, but my understanding is that she really loves running that with her husband. And so it's just, if we're going to have this be just like this is what you're doing as your full-time gig, um, we might need to find some different people. Or maybe that's just my projection and maybe they'd be like, no, I want to do this full time.
Yeah. I yeah, I don't all the numbers were estimates based on time. I think it could potentially be full time, maybe 6 months. Um, but I don't think it's a full time gig. And once you had everything, and it depends how fast you kind of do everything. Um, I think it falls off very quickly to being not full time.
Yeah. So when you say, so the base performance line, I understand. What is the maximized value created line? What does that encompass?
It's the rental premium plus the additional like vacancy. So pushing it up to like 90%, and then the premium and rental rates. So trying to get like top of market.
And total maximized compensation is what?
So the total maximum compensation, well, that maximized value, it's 25% of that plus the base performance is that 224.
Okay.
So I don't think, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think that maximized created should be there. It just means I don't think it's relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I even get that. My understanding was the base performance. If you go to, can you go to the just like the spreadsheet on one of them to the Sunil tab?
Yep.
So my understanding was that the base pay is basically like line, what is that, 15, 14, 15?
Yep.
And that's like that plus the one for COA. And then the maximized rate is, what is that, 26? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what are you saying the middle line of that presentation is?
It's this. So it's like the maximization premium. So it's like whatever percentage increase in rental rate plus the occupancy addition, it creates a value. So $143,000.
Oh, I guess I didn't really understand that piece. Okay.
So this 143,000 is split based on this profit split, and that's how you get. And then I added to this base salary, and that's how you get to 110 or 111. 111.
Okay. So the 111 is, you're saying it's 90% occupancy. I guess maybe this is where we should start the spreadsheet. That's why.
Yep. So the occupancy, it's captured here. I kind of like did the differences so we could see the differences.
Yeah.
So the rental rate, we'll start with occupancy. So occupancy doesn't change until year 3. It goes up to 90%. So the first 2 years, it's just based on premium increase is where you're getting that value.
In terms of you're charging more.
Yep, you're charging more. And then the premiums change by this. So for the daily rental, it goes up by $5. It goes up like by 678, 70, around 78. and then $75 for the monthly. So that's where the first 2 years is. And quite honestly, if you maximize it faster, that occupancy will start playing in, and that number's going to go up. Honestly, this is Belton.
Yeah. Aren't we really? What we're really talking about is just like for the management team, it's all about just like what can they drive the revenue to, correct? Because they're getting 5% of revenue, so it's kind of up to them, to my understanding, of like whether they have the freedom to adjust the rate to whatever they want. They might in year one have occupancy rate at 95%, and like how does that get determined? What the maximized compensation would be? Is it just based on 5% of revenue?
No. So that's what's kind of different. The 5% is like, honestly, that's what you're going to pay someone out in the market to kind of manage this for you, like a management company. It's probably more like 6. It's between 5 and 6, depending. If you have multiple products, it's probably 5. But that 5% is on top line revenue, and then you also get like an equity split. But since it's on the top line revenue, it's not really only 5%. If you compare it to actually like cash flows, it's first couple of years it's quite a bit higher. So I figured it out, but it's all relative. It's more like, I don't know. Well, the first year is not much cash, so it's like it's exorbitant. But then so you get 5% on top of top line revenue, and then you get 15% of the passive cash split at the end of it. So that's where that total comes to 75,000. So I can tell you what the 5% was. It's like 50K
plus the cash flow.
Plus the cash flow, which is like 25K.
And so if the market is to pay a management company 5 to 6%, is that what we think it's worth having a team do this? Because it seems like if on average it takes 2 years and we're expecting to do it in 6 months, why would we be paying the management team the same percentage as someone we just hire as a company?
Well, the management team wouldn't take any equity split.
Okay.
So we've kind of thought through that. Like, should it just be straight equity or doing this like management fee? And we're kind of like hedging the risk. We're absorbing the risk versus the guys that are doing the project. So we're guaranteeing a certain amount of money up front, like off the top line revenue, depending on, and then performance, you have that kicker. I mean, you have the incentive to do the performance, but you're not taking that risk. Well, I would argue the risk is reduced. There's some still associated risk, but I would say it was reduced.
So you guys lowered the risk because people are getting 5% of cash flows up front, and then 15% of whatever cash flow. They're getting 5% of revenue and 15% of whatever cash flow is left over, is what you're saying.
For the base case, yes. And then for the maximization case, we split it 25%.
And that's line what, 23?
Yeah, down here.
26, okay.
So this 143 split 25% plus the 75K is where I got this 110. But you did make a good point, Belton. So, and this is kind of early conversation with Sunil. The thought was it's in Belton, it's off 35, it's kind of a different market than Austin. So the need to have KOA, he's not opposed to getting rid of it. And you're right, it's extra 100K. There's actually an extra 120K if you do. I allowed 150K for like on-site personnel to pay. I only think it's going to cost 120 to 130K. So there's 20 to 30K additional there if you manage the HR pretty tight, which I think you could get away with that. So I would say there's about 130 additional there. and we really haven't discussed how that would get chopped up. But I think everyone's on board to like incentivize the team doing it, so with a higher percentage. But we haven't really communicated anything there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that was my thought. I think same with Tim. So
And
and
so
Sunil.
when you say that, like, sorry, I'm maybe just a little bit slow or struggling today. So when you're saying the Sunil tab, so the base is 5% of revenue and 15% of cash flows. What gets you to basically 5% of revenue and 25% of cash flows in line 26? What's the hurdle you have to get over?
Just getting the higher rent rates. So we're saying like, hey, this is the base case with these rental rates, and that's how I got this number. Anything over that is split based on this split.
So it's all based on rental rates.
Well, the first 2 years it is because I didn't change occupancy until year 3.
I guess, yeah, but that's my question of like, what if the team is like running at 90% occupancy and the rental rates are the same as what the base pay is? Then basically, are they still getting 5% and 15%?
No, any money over the base case would be split at the 25%.
Okay, so it's just any revenue dollar level you do above the base case, however that's whether it's more occupancy, less occupancy, higher rent, lower rent, it goes to 5 and 25 instead of 5 and 15.
Well, it's anything over the base case is 25%.
Got it. Okay.
How we have it built. But
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, and then explain to me line 23 then. Maximization premium.
okay, so that's the created value based on the additional rent rate or if occupancy changes. This is that's the amount of money that's created if based on these higher rates.
Okay, that has
And,
nothing to do with
and you can
compensation.
see like 19 and 22 versus 2 through 5. I kind of put them on there so you can kind of see the difference.
Okay.
But that value is created based on those differences.
Okay.
And how it's split. We've kind of split the rentals between for Belton. Austin's different than this, right? But Belton's 30% daily, 10% weekly, and 60% monthly for Belton.
And what if like the management team is like, actually we feel like the market is better suited to 80% monthly? I mean, do you feel like they have the ability to, like, are they having the freedom to adjust that depending upon what they're okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's ultimately like all up to the sales guy. Right? It's like, hey, how can you maximize it? You benefit if it gets maximized.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's demand, but then also like what's the maximization like dollar amount you can get out of it. So I think that analytics will be unique how it's created. To figure that out.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you have I think you'd have the complete autonomy to kind of figure that out and what you think is maximum. This is what we kind of like what we assumed, but you might come back and say like, no, it doesn't make sense. Like this should be the base case or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So then help me walk through in year 5, like in year 4, obviously there's a huge bump in the contribution.
So I probably should adjust that, but that's based on the additional money that's available to pull out when you refi it. So that money's just getting distributed to everybody that's part of it. It's probably not the best idea, the use of the money, but that's how it's built now. It probably should be kind of just left in the business, but I don't know.
But you're saying that's because they own 15% of the equity. They get part of that money that's refied.
Yep.
I mean, it makes sense that it would come out then instead of staying in the business because they own part of the equity.
Yep. Well, then that's why we built it like that. But
yeah,
I was kind of thinking through that. But that's why it goes up there there's
And then I guess it goes down from 70 to 61K. So what's the adjustment of why it would take 2 more years to get back up into the same range?
we also readjusted the tax rate at that point. So you
Got
get,
it.
not only do you have a higher loan payment, you also get nailed with taxes. And that's, so you see like a double whammy of why it's reduced.
Yeah, understood. And like this is again kind of one of my thoughts, which is like, let's say it's 60K in year 5 and there are 2 people running it, so that's 30K that they get. Obviously, my guess is at that point you're not going to be as nearly as involved at year 5 as you were probably in year 1 and year 2. But I'm still just trying to think of like how how enticing is that for someone?
Well, so I think once you have like the processes and analytics and all that figured out, quite honestly, like a lot of that, once it's figured out, should get pushed down to the people on site. And you're just
Yeah.
managing those people. So I think, depending on your management style, I don't see it being uh, that labor intensive to like, because I think they should be able to handle most of it. Like, I would build a process that they're kind of doing it. Versus me having to like spin my wheels or bandwidth doing it. So
Yeah.
I think, and you have some like money available to like, maybe add another person and staff or get someone a little better. Which I could show you that. So there,
Yeah, please show me that.
so I pulled out like expenses versus non-operating expenses. So you have like what the management fee is, which is 5%, the KOAs, 10%. This is the first years. This will actually go up, but and then there's 3% of payroll that like I put there, allocated it, but I think it's like a little more than what you need. I think 120 will like pay one full-time office person, like a part-time office person, and 2 like 30-hour a week like maintenance people. It's kind of like,
So that 30K payroll is in addition to the payroll that's on line 54, the 120.
yeah,
So you're allocating 15% of the revenue to payroll.
exactly.
Okay.
Well, 20% because it's another 5% to the management team. But yes,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that 3% could be get allocated. There's money there, extra money there, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't pull it out. I didn't pull it out. I left it there. So
Well, and that's just one of my questions of like, how do we decide how that might get allocated, right? Like maybe we're like, actually, we want to spend all that money on payroll because we want just the best people up there. Or maybe we're like, well, we don't need that. 120 is more than enough. So then what do we do with the extra 30? Just keep it on the side for capital expenditures or like how do you envision that?
so I have capital expenditures built in. Let me find where it is. So I have a capex of like 20K a year, which in Samil's mind it wouldn't be needed until like nothing will be spent up at least for 5 years. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have like at least 100K there, and it just continues 100. So that's already built in capex. So I mean, really, like we kind of vaguely discussed this extra funding, and my take from both him and Tim was, the team can kind of come up with how they want to do it, and we could have that discussion. So
Yeah.
like what was needed or not needed, it kind of built like a worst case scenario.
Right. I'm really interested to see. I probably should find some people who maybe own or run KOAs, but like basically you're paying double for a brand, which may be really useful than the people actually working to optimize the system. And so, yeah, I mean, I know that KOA has their own softwares, but there are other softwares. I mean, I've been working with a company as a part-time COO that I'm going to start full-time on March 1st. It's called Campground Booking. They make software to manage your entire property
Yeah.
in the RV and campground space. And So it's like that's a lot. It sounds like a lot to me, but maybe there's some awesome things that they're giving you for the 100 grand.
I don't think so.
I mean, you're going to be able to, like, that's the thing is like, if you list it on campground booking, you're effectively going to be listed on every other site where someone would find an RV park, anyways. And so, I'd be curious to understand what would be the value of that.
Yeah, I don't think there is much value. I think Tim feels very strongly with that as well. Um, I don't know how Sunil feels, but
I'm gonna just drive up to Belton too and like drive through those other RV parks to see like, I mean, first of all, I've looked at all their websites. They don't even have online reservations at their websites.
no, it's horrible.
And so it's like, if those guys are, if I go up there and see that their rates are comparable and they're full, it's like, why would we pay being on I-35 100 grand a year for a KOA?
No, yes, that's our thoughts. I 100% agree with you, Garrett.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so that's this park. Any other questions for?
Can you just go back to just like maybe financials? Yeah. So some of these like insurance, trash, internet, did you actually like how accurate do you think those are? Did you guys actually call trash companies? Do we know that that's not going to be 20K, or 15K for trash or 20K for internet? I'm just kind of curious because that could really affect the business, how close these actually are. They may seem small, but maybe they're actually a
So
lot different.
yeah. So I got numbers. Now I assumed a certain size dumpster, so that dumpster size could be potentially off. But yeah, I tried to like get some pretty decent numbers for these.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, you're right. It could throw it off. And I think for the city of Austin project, the electric, I could never get a hold of city of Austin. So that number is a little concerning, which we might have to do some solar panels or something. But that's another thing that
Why
kind
do
of,
you think because the electricity is gonna be so expensive?
yeah, city of Austin just charges you so much. And I couldn't see if Bluebonnet provides for that area. So that's another option. I just
Yeah.
called City of Austin like multiple times and never could never get a hold of anybody.
All right. Well, yeah, we can figure out just maybe narrow the region of darkness a little bit on that. I can try and call too because I want to make sure that all of a sudden, some of these expenses aren't, dramatically different, which may not be that much of a difference. But I feel like if you're trying to really maximize NOI, if between insurance, trash, internet, that's another 15 or 20K that you didn't realize, that could be meaningful.
No, 100%, 100%.
Okay.
I agree with you. Would be beneficial for someone to kind of go through this, but
Okay. And then deliverables. Can you go to the deliverables? So I'm gonna need to. So you're doing the CFO role, correct?
yeah, I'd be interested in doing that.
But you don't know for sure if you're going to or not.
Well, I haven't been told like, yeah, I'm doing it. I thought someone at CL would do it, so I mean, I'm willing to do it if.
That's
So,
part of the thing we need to figure out. It's like I'm interested in the sales role. You're interested in the CFO role, but like, how do we know if we actually have dibs on that or not?
yeah, no. Yes, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think. I mean, I think that's the thought process is both the brand manager and the CFO would kind of be in CL, but
Yeah.
maybe it's not the case.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
And for the hours, I mean, I looked at how you calculated some of this. I mean, maximizing the bookings. Again, I know that these are estimations, but like if you think about if someone's going to spend 1,852 hours a year, and the average is like a 40-hour work week is like 2,080, I think. Then basically like their hour, compensation is $26, and on this one, but that's just kind of what I'm trying to again think through because I'm talking to people about whether they would do these. So it's like, okay, how interesting actually is that to make, what would be on this opportunity, I don't know, what is that, like maybe 30 to 60K for almost a full-time job at the beginning at least.
Yeah. So these numbers, I don't know. I don't think they're accurate. I mean, I think I overestimated them.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm just trying to think of, and quite frankly, like I've never done this job before, so I can't say like I know what it would be like to maximize,
No,
an
100%.
RV park. Like I can surmise in my brain of what that might be like, but like I don't exactly know. And so some of that, it's like, okay, well, in my mind, working with campground booking, a lot of it's just going to be literally majority of optimizing your campground is, do you have an online booking? Do you have a good website? Do you have good pictures of the sites? Do you have fast responsive rate? Do you have someone there to check you in a, fast, expedient time frame? Do you have good Wi-Fi and do you have good reviews? And so if those things are, checked, what else might I be doing? It's like, particularly for Belton, it's like if that one is on I-35 and there might be a lot of transiency, where it seems like people coming up and down, it's like maybe you run ad campaigns. I don't exactly know what it looks like. Maybe you get involved with filling it up for different, different festivals that come through, throughout the year. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm just trying to imagine for that role and for the ops role, like how do I frame this up for people in a way that they understand what they might be getting themselves into? And also, like, let's say this is like really intense for 6 months or a year. Well, let's say it's 6 months and they're just like banging it. Well, do they take a 6 month leave from their current job and then go find something after this? Do they optimize and then they're just like okay with, hey, this is enough cash for me to live on? I don't know. I'm just trying to like think about what might be the questions people ask me, what they might be concerned or excited about, and how do we address those when we describe this opportunity?
Yeah, yeah. I, so I think the ops role, and it sounds like some of the sales role, you have the experience that there's already software doing that.
Yeah,
So
totally.
the ops role, I think majority of it can be handled by a software as well. Um, I think the biggest draw on that role would be maintaining like the customer experience
Yeah.
and just managing the team to do that. Um, you know, I don't think it's. I mean, I know the concern of like the hours I put here. I don't think it's going to be that labor intensive. And I think to the point is like, yeah, maybe it takes 6 months, and then after that point, it's either running itself, or maybe you decide to, hire someone else to do what you were doing, and you just take a cut of it, or
Totally.
whatever that looked like. Like I
Totally.
think there's endless options.
Yeah.
Um, and I really think that like this kind of plays into like similar things we're doing. And this really gets compelling like when you add another one or add four, which I don't think it's going to add much work. I think it's going to be like
As in
I think
you
you're
add
really
another
getting
RV
that
park, like
leverage.
4 more RV parks, you're saying?
Yeah. I think if you added another one, which, Sunil kind of mentioned that like that land he has on Lamar, he's like thinking about like, does it make sense? He's like, if the team's willing, like there's other options. So I think like this really gets compelling when you start
Yeah,
adding
totally.
3 or 4 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I would love to be able to just like crush the operations of this and make it a super badass experience and just have the thing optimized and then be able to replicate that over and over. I mean, you're not probably creating or solving any, massive world problems doing that, but it could really set our family up nicely, and it could be fun to see the fruits of setting up a great process actually
Yeah.
work other places.
Yeah. I mean, so I think I'm kind of sidetracking, but the the whole CL like thing is like, yeah, we want to solve big problems, but I think the initial thing is like taking care of everyone first.
Yeah.
What are your immediate needs, and then how can we solve the larger problems in the world?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really like, I want to see how this plays out. I'm really like looking forward to like working with everybody, and I just think the opportunities are endless,
Yeah.
and it really could like change the whole throw the HR systems on its head.
Totally. Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, when I watched that Super Bowl commercial, and I've looked at jobs on Indeed and stuff, it's just like the whole system seems backwards to me. It's like this really, I think, could change. Hey, send me that KOA doc. Will you go back? Will you send me that? Will you send me all that stuff, or can you add me to this file?
Yeah. I just pulled it off the file that you sent me from Sneal. You should have it.
Okay, cool. So what is this? This is City of Austin.
COA. So in this case, so I would say I have like a red.
Bigger?
Sorry.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
Is that good?
Yep.
So I think the electric is kind of a big contingency. It potentially could be higher than this, but there is additional like payroll, very similar. 12% here is 140,000. So 3% is 35K here. That's 5% is actually a little more. So there's no KOA, but like the rental rates kind of push those numbers higher, just based on a percentage.
So there's no KOA on this one. So where do you see that 10% being redistributed? Is it redistributed? Electricity is higher, so some of it goes to there. Where did some of that go?
So taxes are
Yep.
way higher. Electric's higher. Water and sewer are pretty much the same. I kept the same trash and internet, which those could be adjusted. And I kept landscaping about the same as well. So I don't know how much landscaping there actually is based on the amount of concrete that's there, but
yeah.
So yeah, I think the largest driver is taxes and electric.
We should make this thing a nonprofit, dude. No, tax free.
That'd be nice. That would be nice. Also, so initially starting the COA versus Belton, I had kind of an assumption. I was like, well, Austin would just be so much better just because the rental rates are quite a bit higher.
As in which to start first?
Well, just I thought it was gonna be like a more profitable project.
Okay.
But it's, I don't know, 20, 30 spaces. I think it's 20 spaces smaller. And like the construction cost was higher, like taxes are higher. So all those like kind of made it to be like an equivalent as Belton. Well, actually Belton has 100K of the KOA that's kind of extra. So I'd say Belton's a better project in that respect for cash flows. But I think this would be easier to fill and build a brand around.
Which one is more valuable long term in terms of an exit scenario?
COA.
Yeah. So in this scenario,
so I know you were asking questions about like investor equity. And in this case, like I was able to pull enough money out that I didn't have to give them any equity. But in the case we had to give equity to keep that percentage around 15, 16%, it'd come out of the developing team's pocket.
Yeah. And I don't know if Tim told you this. He said that when I told him this, he said Chris would be cursing out loud if you heard this. But when I talked to Sunil last week, I said to him like, "Hey, if I do this, I would want to invest my money, and I don't know exactly what that looks like." And he said like, if you want to invest, like we can carve out some of the equity for you if you're one of the managing people doing this, because I think that actually aligns incentives. And so I don't exactly know how that would work, but um, we're definitely interested in doing that. And I don't know if that messes this model up or if that's like a side deal that Sunil sells me some of his equity. I don't exactly know how it would work. And I don't know why Tim said that you'd be cursing just because you made this model and that would throw the model off. But
No, it doesn't model off, but I was anticipating like something like that happening.
yeah,
It's not, it's hard to build it until you know
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what everyone wants. But that percentage would come out of the developing section. So it come out of here.
yeah,
That's what kind of made this like kind of like a unique project to kind of think through is like, well, the investor and the developer is the same person. So
right.
um and yeah. But yeah, I could see like I could see redoing this model like if Garrett puts in X and then the other person wants to put some money in too or not, and right, and then figuring out like what your actual equity is versus what the other individual is. So
And,
I think
yeah,
that's
and what price are you buying in at? That's obviously like an important thing to think about, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, you'd buy in at um well, I think everything's negotiable, but my thought would be you buy in like at the step up price of what the land is after the entitlements.
Because they've already done that work.
Yep. So it's already done. Everything else forward. I mean, because he's gonna have to go get money for the construction. So if you're gonna be part of that, like
Right. That makes sense.
that's how I would think it would work. I think I'd
And then
make
what would be the return on that on a cash on cash basis, would you imagine?
for just the investor.
Yeah, if you invest in it, does that change to not be 16% or does that stay at 16%?
So we want it. So the thought is Tim doesn't want he wants the equity percentage across multiple projects to be the same. So there's not like winners and losers on what project you pick to invest in. So if you're going to invest, you're going to get X dollars. What we're saying here is it's like 15 to 16%. We'll figure out what that is. I think I have it built at 16. Um,
So in this scenario, if you invest, like if I invested in it as equity, I would get a percentage of equity, but I would still get whatever that rate is that is across the board equal, which is 16% in this case.
yes, that's my thought.
Got it.
I think
And
equity is like a discussion just with Sunil. I think the 16.
yeah, and I'm not a deconstructor, so it's hard for me to visualize like how all this would work and how the levers would be pulled and stuff.
Yeah, I think here I have it built as 15. So
Yeah. Well, it's taking me to my goal. I mean, one of the other things that like is like super on my mind is, and we talked about this a little bit, which is like there's a really narrow window in my mind of doing some of these adventures I want to do with our kids when they're going to be of the right age to do it. And so when I think about like this boat adventure that I want to do, we're thinking like, okay, we want to do that in 5 years or so because they'd be at a great age, 5, 6 years, 4 years, whatever. Well, to do that, like you need like 300 to 325K after taxes to do that. And so it's like, well, how do I get there? And I don't know exactly how to get there. That's something that I'm talking to Tim about. And, if this can help me get there in part of the way and investing in this can help me get there. But, that's something that I'm like super like thoughtful about it, that like our kids are going to be in that narrow window and I don't want to miss it because made stupid decisions or I wasn't intentional enough. And so it's just like really key on my mind.
no, I can understand. I'm with you. I don't have kids, but I want to replace my income as well.
Yeah.
Like so, it's 5 year marks where I kind of set it too. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
So can you go back to the deliverables?
so I mean, I didn't change anything here. It's the same numbers as before. So I
Yeah.
think it would adjust.
Yeah. And the thing for me is like I'm interested in the sales roles, but I'm interested there are multiple things like I can tell you things I'm not interested in, like um project manage CapEx projects, like pay vendors, I mean, I think probably a lot of that's really simple in terms of like it's done, electronically. Um, like ensure a consistent customer experience. I am actually really interested in that. Like, what is it like to come in there and, experience checking in, and what's your, how do you just make people love the experience as opposed to other RV parks?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I'm thinking about. So can you maybe go back to the presentation and we'll go into the roles? So I agree with taking that line out. That doesn't make sense to me. Um, you can just go down another one. Let's just go through it. And also, I gave most of the presentation on DDP. On this one, I feel like I don't want to give the whole presentation. Um, like Sunil, I think I'm not the best person to give the the presentation probably on like why are these RV parks a good opportunity, or how did we come upon these, or what's the development state phase going to really be like? He's going to have a better understanding. So what I'm planning on doing is basically putting a timeline of like what I think the presentation looks like, and putting people there, like, go back a slide to 16. Like I actually imagine maybe you'd talk about this. I don't know how you feel about that. Um,
Yeah, I
or
mean, I
maybe,
can.
or maybe I'll talk about it. I guess, can you go down to the roles slide? Yeah, so here you go. So um, I guess some of these are not fully clear what the person would do, because a brand manager, like there are going to be a lot of different things that are incorporated in that. Like if you go to the deliverables page um, on the sheet, so like develop a brand, but like I know some people who could do these roles, but like developing the brand would actually be a much different person than conducting the online market research and SEO, right? Like as
Yep.
an example, Hillary doesn't want to actually make the logo and develop the brand. Um, but that'd be something that she could be really effective at. But she's not going to be the person to generate the content and manage the website. And so this is one of the things that I was also wondering about. Like this might be multiple different people doing that brand manager role. And I don't know how you all thought about like, I know there's a chunk set out for how much we'd pay for this brand manager work. How much is that?
It was gonna be just based on the hours for it, so it'd come out of the CL cut of the projects.
Which is how much?
Um,
Okay, so 40K,
so maximum would be these.
70K, yeah, 77K. Okay.
Um, my thought was like I kind of lumped them all together, but I thought to your point, it would be more of someone managing a lot of different people doing it.
Okay.
It's kind of what my thought was. I mean, I know it's yes, it's different skill sets, but I think that there could be someone managing each individual like kind of contract at a contracted rate. It'd just be a contractor they kind of manage, and like you have like the big picture. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
So can you go back to the deliverables then? Yeah. Now that you say it like that, I have someone in mind I think who'd be really good at doing just like managing all the different people. Because on one hand, I was thinking of like, okay, well, we're gonna have to find all these different people to do these different roles. But maybe what I'm hearing you say is we find the brand manager, maybe this is should be seem obvious to me, but it's not. And then the brand manager finds all the different people to do the SEO and to do the website and to do the logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Badass. Okay, this is really helpful. I know that this conversation is like super disorganized, but like it's just helping me to walk through these in different ways. Um, how do you imagine giving this presentation and talking about compensation? Because in DDP, it seemed like we were clear, but evidently we weren't that clear based on the conversation between him and Justin. But this one is actually a little bit less clear in that, like, it's not as much based on, like, I don't want to say it's based on a job because evidently that's based on a percentage in DDP, if I heard that right. But this one is a little bit less clear of like, well, how much is the brand manager going to get? Because we're also going to have to spend some of that money from the CL line item to pay for a logo, to pay for a website, to do SEO.
Yep.
So, like, okay, so we have 41K there. Is that we pay $1,000 a month for a brand manager? Like, I don't know how help me understand how we would tee this up.
Um, well, I think you have to have both the projects going at the same time to make this like 80K.
Okay, okay.
Um, and then you just kind of figure out what's needed there. I foresee like a lot of it being like upfront costs. So like building like actual like logo and all those like website, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it being like like a contractor kind of rate. And then the SEO is like maybe someone builds like how you're going to create that, and then someone on site does it. I don't know. I think you could. That would be my like, if I was running this thing, it'd be my goal is like how do I push it down to like the lowest amount of pay I can pay someone to do it versus like this ongoing expense.
In terms of the brand manager,
Well, just in
what?
terms of like setting up everything that needs to be done, right? Like
Yeah.
once they kind of set it up, they kind of hand it off and they're done. I don't see that being like a prolonging job per se, like throughout. But maybe I'm missing it.
So interesting. So what you're saying is, are you seeing the brand manager, to what you said earlier in the conversation, that person might actually become like a part of CL in terms of they would be coming also to the CL trainings with us with Deb. We would pay them, and it's like, hey, this is how much you're getting paid, and this is how much you have to spend on doing all these different tasks. So however you want to figure that out, these are your deliverables. Make a website, get the best SEO, make sure the pictures are awesome, make sure it's posted. Okay, interesting.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But maybe that's not enough money.
I mean, it could be. Like, the woman I'm thinking about who could do this is, um she's been in the RV space. She's the husband of the guy who started Campground Booking, who I'm partnering with on that business. And I mean, she's like super expert, knowledgeable on the RV space, on how people are marketing the RV space. She'd probably be a perfect person to do this. She's written a really best-selling book on like RVing on the road, living in an RV. Like, she could be actually badass at doing this. Um, and she's a mom with another kid, so you might be able to pay her 30, 40 grand a year to do this on the side, and she'd be thrilled.
Okay. And that's kind of like what I was thinking, but we really didn't, be quite frank with you, do much thought around that.
Yeah.
It was more
And so
focused on the
the
sales and
80
ops role.
the 80K between both these, that's paying for the brand manager, the CFO, and all the deliverables underneath the brand manager.
Yeah, and trying to put some money back into the CL coffer, but yes.
Okay.
um,
So I'm actually thinking that maybe on the presentation, the goal is just to explain the opportunity and explain the roles and be very like high level on what the compensation is or how it might work, because it seems like we don't actually even have that fully ironed out yet.
I think for the ops and the sales, we have a better idea than this. But I agree with you. I don't think we should give them a specified number. Anybody. I mean, I think we can explain the management team like, hey, like you're gonna get 5% of top line revenue as like a management fee, and then you're gonna get an equity split after that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think that's
But
pretty
that's just for the
defined.
sales and the ops person. That's not the brand manager and the CFO.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe we should put more thought around that before if we're planning on presenting for all four roles, not just the two, maybe we should put more thought around that.
Well, and that's another question I talked to Heather about. It's like, if and this is something we haven't figured out in the group, but like I'm interested in doing a bunch of the sales roles, but also a couple of different things with the apps. Do you need to go?
Can I just come right back?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. Oh, I'm back.
All right, sorry about that.
No, I'm good, dude. It was perfect. I needed to go get the baby anyway, so Kara could get a little sleep.
Okay. Yes. So I think we're talking about your conversation with Heather. Like if we should.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm excited about doing the sales role and part of the apps role. And to Heather's point, it was like, why would we give a presentation on the sales role if I'm interested in doing that? It's like, hey, come to a presentation and hear about a role that's not open for you. But at the same time, it's like, we also don't know that I'm going to be able to do the sales role and you get the CFO role. But in my mind, it's like, I thought that was part of the whole purpose of this, to begin with. And so for me, I was actually kind of just thinking about presenting the ops role and the brand manager role.
Okay.
But maybe that's not correct. I don't know.
I thought we would just be doing the ops role.
And not the brand manager role.
I thought brand manager would come after. Like we'd find them like once you had the management team, like the management team would kind of go find them. But maybe not. That's just how I thought about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't think we were going to present the sales role if you're interested.
I mean, I totally get that. I'm just like, I don't know exactly how we clarify if I get to do that or not.
No, I mean, when I talked to Tim and Sunil, they were both like pretty stoked that you were like interested in it. So I was on there's the anticipation that that's what we were just doing the ops.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. And like I am excited about the sales role. And part of it for me, honestly, it just like fully I'm just at a place right now where I have a bunch of things like this. I feel the best I've ever felt right now professionally about stuff I have going on that I'm excited about. And so like this campground booking business, um, I'm an equity holder in that business, and that business is growing a lot, and I'm having fun working on that. And it's actually really interesting because I've learned a lot about the RV space in that business because that's exactly what we do. And these RV parks are coming online. So it's like, how interesting is this? And so I told him, like, I don't want to have. Yes, baby.
You have to come. You have to just turn on Go Dogs Go.
I love to turn on Go Dogs Go. Hold on, Chris.
Yeah, that's Go Dogs Go on no flags.
Okay, I'll find Go Dogs Go real quick, okay?
Yeah.
Why don't you snuggle under that blanket? Because you need to stay warm. Where's the remote? Oh, can you go get that little Apple remote back there? I can't get back there while holding Elodie.
No, I can't get back there.
I know you can. You're good at that.
That's here.
Hold on, let me close this. Give me a sec, Chris. Hold on. Let me have that, buddy. Let me have it.
Here you go.
Let me have it.
All right.
Thank you. All right, now set up your little area in here and get under the blanket. It's a little cool. Here.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks.
here you go. Go Dogs Go. Perfect.
Go Dogs Go. I like Go Dogs Go.
I know you do.
Go Dogs Go.
So, anyways, all I'm saying is like, dude, if you ever want kids, I hope you have them because it's just so fun. It's just they're the greatest freaking things. It's so fun. Anyways, my point is like I want to do the sales role and parts of the ops role because I have a lot of energy around like, what it's like to give people an awesome experience. And I've never maximized an asset like that. I think that would be a really fun experience to learn. I just want to be upfront and that people know like, hey, I don't want to have to, as Stephen Tomlinson, who, from acting would say, like, don't discard. I don't want to like give up other things I'm having a lot of fun with to go and do something when actually I think both of them would actually complement each other because they're both in this RV space.
No, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I think you could do both.
Yeah. So, and for me, I was like, okay, well, maybe I go up there for like, 2 hours in the morning and I spend, time there on the weekends or in the evenings. Like you get to see, different times when the opportunity, when the RV park is running. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. So, I mean, for me, it's like, okay, we'll present the ops role and maybe that's it.
Okay.
I've only pretty much invited ops people.
Well, I think we're good.
All right, cool.
I mean, I personally think I was under anticipation that's all we're doing. I know we built it out, but Hillary started building it before you kind of like because I think you were still trying to figure out if you were fully interested or not.
Yeah. And I'm like also super excited. Like, dude, if we could build a couple more of these and we had 4 or 5 parks, that would be badass.
Yeah, I think, and it sounds like everyone's on board for that.
So yeah, so he'll say he just doesn't want to be the one to be, leading it. He'd be happy to like take part in it, but he doesn't want to be the one, figuring out what land should we buy or this, that, and the other. So if we get these optimized and in 5 years have 4, 5, 6 of them, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would. It would be amazing.
Yeah. So, and that's not something I'm going to be able to go figure out how to do completely by myself. Like that's another piece of the beauty for me of like CL is like, wow, I have Chris here who can figure out, well, how would we financially do this and how does it work? Like that's just not. I told Tim the other day, like when I was working on the mobile home park stuff, I feel like the models I built were like maybe they got to 60 or 70% of what Reed got, which was like 90%. And Tim was like, what you did was probably 90% better than what most people are doing. But like I see what you're doing and what Reed can do. It's like, so I know there's this whole other level of sophistication that's just not how my brain operates.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to like chop it up with Reed and just probably see if there's anything I can learn from him.
When we do the mobile home park opportunity, because Tim said that's what we're gonna do next. rebuilt a badass model for the mobile home park stuff we were doing. We have a bunch of deals in there we looked at. Like, you got to have him walk you through it. It's incredible.
Okay, I will.
It is incredible, dude. So, all right, Chris, thank you so much for walking me through this and spending time on Valentine's Day and Sunday.
Yeah.
To learn more about this.
Yeah, hopefully it was helpful.
Super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, dude.
All right, bye.